A well-educated black has a tremendous advantage over a well-educated white. A black may think that they don't really have the advantage. If I was starting off today, I would love to be a well-educated black.
They don't look like Indians to me, and they don't look like Indians to Indians.
It would be 9 blacks against 9 whites, all highly educated, very smart, strong, beautiful people, right?
Pocahontas? Is it offensive? Oh, really? Oh, I'm sorry about that. Pocahontas? I think she's as Native American as I am, okay? When Mexico sends its people, they're not sending their best. They're bringing drugs, they're bringing crime, they're rapists, and some, I assume, are good people. I want surveillance of certain mosques. Negotiating with China. They say, we want deal. I'm asking for the vote of every single African-American citizen in this country. What do you have to lose? You're living in poverty. Your schools are no good. You have no jobs. 58% of your youth is unemployed. What the hell do you have to lose? Oh, look at my African-American over here. Look at him. We are from India. All of my friends in Little Havana. We are also praying for the people of Puerto Rico. We love Puerto Rico. And we also love Puerto Rico. Come here. You're not nervous, right? Speaks perfect English.
No, I'm not a racist. I am the least racist person.
The president suggested the protesters were professionally managed and denied he was stoking more confrontation when he inquired, "Tonight, I understand, is MAGA night at the White House?"
I have no idea if they're going to be here. I was just asking. By the way, they love African-American people. They love black people. MAGA loves black people.
After clashes with Secret Service overnight, the president wrote, "I was inside, watched every move, and couldn't have felt more safe." Then added, "Nobody came close to breaching the fence. If they had, they would have been greeted with the most vicious dogs and most ominous weapons I have ever seen."
To make a reference to vicious dogs is no subtle reminder to African Americans of segregationists who let dogs out on women, children, and innocent people in the South.
It follows another racially charged tweet from the president Friday. "When the looting starts, the shooting starts." The phrase was originally coined in 1967 by a Miami police chief known for aggressive policing tactics in black communities.
He warned that recent protests over racial inequality have threatened the foundations of the U.S. political system.
But you don't hear them talking about COVID. COVID. To be specific, COVID-19. That name gets further and further away from China as opposed to calling it the Chinese virus. Than any disease in history. I can name Kung Flu. I can name 19 different versions. What I said the other night, there's never been anything where they have so many names. I could give you 19 or 20 names for that, right? It's got all different names. Wuhan. Wuhan was catching on. Coronavirus, right? Kung Flu, yeah. Kung Flu. COVID, COVID-19, COVID. I say, what's the 19? COVID-19. Some people can't explain what the 19. Give me the COVID-19. I said, that's an odd name.
The 19 in COVID-19 stands for the year the virus was first detected, which of course we know was 2019. So,
a person at the White House used the term Kung flu. My question is, do you think that that's wrong, Kung flu? And do you think using the term Chinese virus, that puts Asian Americans at risk, that people might target them?
No, not at all. I think they probably would agree with it 100%. It comes from
comments, but one remark has been described as hurtful even by his own staff. Amongst those left outraged is our next guest, the daughter of acting legend Bruce Lee.
Shannon Lee says the president's joke about Kung Fu is racist and will put people at risk. Saying Kung Flu is in some ways similar to someone sticking their fingers in the corner of their eyes and pulling them out to represent an Asian person, she said.
I think they probably would agree with it 100%.
Saying Trump's comment is stupid, racist, and part of the reason he's losing this election.
I think they probably would agree with it 100%.
And these comments are making people have more anti-Asian attacks and sentiments out in the public, and it's making people unsafe.
And Trump's given the virus other names that we won't repeat.
Putting what you're calling the alt-left and white supremacists on the same moral plane.
I'm not putting anybody on a moral plane. What I'm saying is this. You had a group on one side and you had a group on the other, and they came at each other with clubs, and it was vicious, and it was horrible, and it was a horrible thing to watch. But there is another side. There was a group on this side, you can call them the left, or you've just called them the left, that came violently attacking the other group. So you can say what you want, but that's the way it is. Well, I do think there's blame. Yes, I think there's blame on both sides. You look at, and you had some very bad people in that group, but you also had people that were very fine people on both sides. Not all of those people were neo-Nazis, believe me.
Saturday's rally in Charlottesville was one of the largest gatherings of white supremacists in more than a decade. Hundreds came.
Very fine people on both sides.
The majority of them were armed with guns and batons, protected by shields emblazoned with racist symbols. The counter-protesters were overwhelmingly unarmed, but there were a number of Antifa or anti-fascist demonstrators who also used shields and sticks and clashed with white supremacists, but they were largely outnumbered.
You had a group on the other side that came charging in without a permit, and they were very, very violent.
It appears the worst violence came at the hands of white supremacists. James Fields Jr., who traveled from Ohio to join the neo-Nazis, was behind the wheel when counter-protester Heather Heyer was hit and killed. And a black man, DeAndre Harris, needed 8 staples in his skull after he was severely beaten in a parking garage.
Very fine people on both sides.
Here's a look at some of his comments. On Confederate monuments, sad to see the history and culture of our great country being ripped apart with the removal of our beautiful statues and monuments. Let's be clear about something here. This happened 5 days after Charlottesville. These beautiful statues and monuments were to people who were traitors to the Union, and they were erected to intimidate and subjugate African Americans, mostly in southern states.
Back in 1973, the Trump's family real estate company was sued by the Justice Department for racial discrimination. They settled without admitting wrongdoing, but were required to take steps to prevent discrimination. And that was just the beginning. 1991, in a book, it's called Trumped, by former Trump casino executive John O'Donnell. Donald Trump said, quote, "Black guys counting my money? I hate it. The only kind of people I want counting my money are short guys that wear yarmulkes every day. Those are the kind of people I want counting my money. No one else." Racism and anti-Semitism all rolled up into one quote. In 1989, Trump took out this infamous full-page ad in 4 New York City newspapers demanding the death penalty for what he called, quote, "roving bands of wild criminals." This is in the wake of the rape of a white female jogger in Central Park. 5 black and Latino teenagers were wrongfully convicted of the crime and later exonerated.
This, another reprehensible thing. The NFL players are at it again, taking a knee when they should be standing proudly for the national anthem. Numerous players from different teams wanted to show their outrage at something that most of them are unable to define. They make a fortune doing what they love. That was Friday. Mr. President, those NFL players know exactly why they're taking a knee. Colin Kaepernick hasn't worked since he's been blackballed by the NFL. It would do the country a great service, one, if you would stop tweeting about that, and two, truly find out what these players are protesting. And again, the last part of that tweet, be happy, be cool. A football game that fans are paying so much money to watch and enjoy is no place to protest. You can read the rest of that yourself. But I want to make one thing clear. I don't know if many people realize or understand. When Colin Kaepernick started protesting at the NFL games, he originally sat on the bench sat out the national anthem until another then NFL player, who was also a veteran, wrote an open letter to him. He and Colin Kaepernick met, and it was because of that meeting with that veteran that Colin Kaepernick learned that the way that members of the armed forces honor their fallen brothers and sisters is to take a knee. That is why Colin Kaepernick is taking a knee. Something the president either doesn't know or doesn't care to understand.
Nearly 400 pages of records have been posted to the FBI's Freedom of Information Act website regarding their investigation into allegations that Trump was discriminating against people of color who tried to rent property through his real estate company in the 1970s. Many of those interviewed in these cases were not aware of discrimination, but some records show that white applicants were offered leases on properties that black applicants were previously told were not available.
I think I've done more for the black community than any other president, and let's take a pass on Abraham Lincoln because he did good, although it's always questionable, you know.
There were also accounts of quoting black people twice the amount of rent that the property was worth in an effort to price them out of being able to rent the property.
07 of the Trump administration, and the president is defiant and unapologetic following his attack on 4 elected members of Congress. All are Democrats, all are women of color, all are U.S. citizens. On Sunday, he appeared to go after Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Ilhan Omar, Ayanna Pressley, and Rashida Tlaib when he posted, "So interesting to see progressive Democrat congresswomen who originally came from countries whose governments are a complete and total catastrophe, now loudly and viciously telling the people of the United States, the greatest and most powerful nation on earth, how our government is to be run. Why don't they go back and help fix the totally broken and crime-infested places from which they came? Then come back and show us how it's done." Speaker Nancy Pelosi said Trump's outburst, quote, "reaffirms his plan to make America great again has always been about making America white again." Then this morning, the president went there again. Quote, "When will the radical left Congresswoman apologize to our country, the people of Israel, and even to the office of the president for the foul language they have used and the terrible things they have said? So many people are angry at them and their horrible and disgusting actions." Peter Baker outburst for the New York Times, quote, "His assumption that the House Democrats must have been born in another country or that they did not belong here, if they were, fits as an us against them political strategy that has been at the heart of Mr. Trump's presidency from the start. Heading into next year's election, he appears to be drawing a deep line between the white, native-born America of his memory and the ethnically diverse, increasingly foreign-born country he is presiding over, challenging voters in 2020 to declare which side of that line they are on." Made in America event at the White House today, the president, armed with notes, including his own special spelling of al-Qaeda, went there again.
And all I'm saying that if they're not happy here, they can leave. They can leave, and you know what? I'm sure that there'll be many people that won't miss them. I look at Omar, I don't know, I never met her. I hear the way she talks about Al-Qaeda. Al-Qaeda has killed many Americans.
Are you
but
okay
these are
with people
quiet,
thinking your
quiet,
tweets are racist,
quiet,
Mr. President?
Quiet.
Are you okay with people
Quiet.
thinking your tweets are racist, sir?
Quiet.
It doesn't concern you that many people saw that tweet as racist and
that white nationalist groups are finding common cause with you on that point?
It doesn't concern me because many people agree with me. These are people that hate our country. Their goal is to end America.
Donald Trump's leadership is under scrutiny as the Black Lives Matter movement sweeps across the USA.
Call in the National Guard, call me. You have to dominate the streets. You can't let what's happening happen. It's called dominate the streets.
While many world leaders have openly supported calls for change, the US president has so far refused to be moved by scenes like this in his own country.
I have a great relationship with the blacks. I've always had a great relationship with the blacks.
Look at my African American over here. Look at him. Are you the greatest? No president has done more for our black community. Black voices for Trump, African Americans for Trump, call it whatever the hell you want, right? I have a group of African American guys and gals, by the way, that follow me around and they think I pay them and I don't. Hopefully George is looking down right now and saying there's a great thing that's happening for our country. There's a great day for him. It's a great day for everybody. Wouldn't you love to see one of these NFL owners, when somebody disrespects our flag, to say, get that son of a bitch off the field right now, out, he's fired. He's fired! These are people that, in my opinion, hate our country.
Which President Trump today questioned why the United States would allow people from Haiti and Africa into the country, describing those places using an expletive while suggesting people from Norway might be more acceptable. He reportedly made the comments during a White House meeting with a bipartisan group of senators. The White House tonight is not denying the president made the remarks.
Turned to Haiti and countries in Africa at that meeting. He apparently said, this is a quote, "Why are we having all these people from shithole countries come here?" You can't dance around it. Those are the words of the President of the United States. It brings back to the fore the suggestion he is not only contemptuous but racist. He apparently suggested he prefer immigrants from places like Norway. The White House has not denied these words.
They want everything to be done for them when it should be a community effort. They are Puerto Ricans. They are American citizens. They lost everything. They, by and large, have moved to Florida, and come November, they most likely will vote. They also, 1,427 of them, the Puerto Rican government announced this week, died in Hurricane Maria. This is probably one of the most egregious among many egregious things. At a White House ceremony honoring Native American war heroes. You were here long before any of us were here, although we have a representative in Congress who they say was here a long time ago. They call her Pocahontas. This was said in the Oval Office by the President of the United States. And to make matters worse, that portrait that you see there over the man's head here on the right, that's a portrait of Andrew Jackson, the 7th President of the United States, who was a slave owner, who also instituted the Indian Removal Act that led to the Trail of Tears.
This is a country where we speak English, not Spanish.
From NBC News have emerged that President Donald Trump last fall, after receiving a briefing on Pakistan from a female intelligence officer, asked the woman where her people were from. When the analyst told the president her parents were from Korea, Trump reportedly asked another advisor in the room why the pretty Korean lady wasn't negotiating with North Korea. NBC News also cited a source that says Trump frequently uses that kind of language.
It's a very sad baby. Okay, you're not a baby.
I'm not saying there's not a lot of individual
coming
cases.
in are causing tremendous problems. In terms of crime, in terms of murder, in terms of rape, in terms of...
Let me give you two studies. Northwestern University, cited by the Washington Post, says essentially no correlation between illegal immigration and violent crime. Pew Research Center, using figures from the University of Massachusetts, found, quote, the crime rate among first-generation immigrants, those who came to this country from somewhere else, significantly lower than the overall crime rate and that of the second generation.
I think allowing millions and millions of people to come into Europe is very, very sad. I think you are losing your culture. That is total white nationalist rhetoric coming from the President of the United States, the President of a country founded and nurtured by African slaves, a country of immigrants. This another reprehensible thing.
On one of the statements that you made in the tail end of the campaign in the midterms. That
here we go.
That, well, if you don't mind, Mr. President, that this caravan was an invasion. As you know, Mr.
I consider it to be an invasion.
As you know, Mr. President, the caravan was not an invasion. It's a group of migrants moving up from Central America towards the border with the U.S.
Thank you for telling me that. I appreciate it.
Why did you characterize it as such?
Because I consider it an invasion. You and I have a difference of opinion.
But do you think that you demonized immigrants in this election to try?
The president today avoided questions about the extremist videos he retweeted, videos that have provoked an international backlash.
Mr. President, why have you been retweeting anti-Muslim videos?
The three videos were originally posted by a tiny anti-Islam ultra-nationalist party called Britain First, a group known for hate-filled incitement. They purport to show Muslims engaged in violent acts. In a blunt statement, the office of British Prime Minister Theresa May, perhaps America's closest ally, condemned the president for his tweets, saying the group Britain First seeks to divide communities through their use of hateful narratives which peddle lies and stoke tensions. It is wrong for the president to have done this. But White House Press Secretary Sarah Sanders defended the tweets.
It's important to talk about national security and national security threats.
The White House insists this is about strong borders. One of the videos claims to show a Muslim migrant in the Netherlands beating a Dutch boy. But tonight, the embassy of the Netherlands says that's not true. They say the attacker was actually Dutch, tweeting, "Facts do matter." Tonight, KKK leader David Duke tweeted, "Thank God for Trump. That's why we love him."
Country, it's called Muslims. We know our current president is one. Right. You know he's not even an American.
We need this
birth
question.
certificate, man.
It's totally inappropriate, and frankly, I understand if Senator Obama and his supporters would find it offensive.
Have time for this kind of silliness. We got better stuff to do. I've got better stuff to do.
Tens of thousands of Syrian refugees who probably, in many cases, not probably, who are definitely, in many cases, ISIS aligned. I think Islam hates us. And we can't allow people coming into this country who have this hatred.